Hello creation, I hope you're well. I've literally, don't people use that word a lot? Online I've noticed they use that word a lot, don't they? Anyway, I've just woke up and I'd had a dream, a very prominent dream, so while it's fresh in my mind I want to tell you about it, and then I want to see what I want to put across my point for what I think the moral of it is. So I was in a team that was playing or had just played a game of football and had won. We were in this location, I can't tell you where it was or anything like that. I didn't recognise it or anything, but I know it was part of a workplace, so like might have even been a supermarket, I'm not sure, but we'd played this game not in the supermarket, outside, and we'd won the game, and we'd come back for the presentation, which was actually inside the supermarket. When it came to the presentation, I was the one who had just captained the team, even though I'd never played in that team before. So the cup had to be built. It was in 4 pieces. And they announced, now for the presentation of the cup. So I stepped forward, having been the captain for that game, which I'd never played in this team before. And they just looked at me. Did this big guy, who I believe was the manager, the one who represented the manager or the owner, and they looked, and I just said, because he'd said who am I presenting it to? So I stepped forward and I said me, and they all looked at me, and I said, well, I'm the captain. It's what normally happens, So they went, well, yeah then. And he threw me the bass of it, not a bass guitar, the bass of the cup. Then he threw me the next part, then he threw me the next part, and then he threw me the next part. And it was difficult how it was to be put together, because it would only go in one particular way, one certain way. So as I'm trying to look, and there's a piece that would slot in here, and then there's a piece that would click in there, and so I'm trying to work it out, and they're all stood round and they're saying, it were like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? It was, have you done it yet? So they were quite impatient. So anyway, I said, no, not yet. I said, but we'll get there, So built this cup up and walked round. They were in sort of a semicircle, and I walked to this semicircle facing them all, and I just went, cup winners, and lifted it up. No one cheered, no one celebrated, no one. And I went, right, who wants it? No one wanted it. So I said, well, if no one wants it, so I'll put it on the ground. Now, and then I woke up. So, what does that mean for me? How do I interpret that? Okay, well, I'm comparing it to, I'm likening it to Obviously the game of football which was played, but also like the voyage of a ship. Sometimes there are captains brought in for a game, or maybe not so much for the game of football. It's not heard of. I don't think it is anyway. Maybe it has been, but certainly for voyages of a ship. Sometimes a captain will come in. I believe so. I believe this to be so. Depending on the particular journey, and maybe even in days of old. I don't know, but this is how I see it. This is how I see it. I'm trying to make head sense out of it, to be honest. But I think for that particular voyage, they put the best captain in for that journey, to navigate those waters. And for that game of football, putting it in footballing terms, they brought the best captain in for that particular game. Sometimes outsiders, I know it's a team thing, or it's a crew of a ship, or it's a team of a football team, but the captain for that particular game had been brought in from the outside, or the captain for that particular voyage had been brought in from the outside. But because when it came to the raising of the cup, he, in his, I would have said, inflexibility and not arrogance, stood forward, because it's what's the norm. It's what normally happens. The captain raises the cup, and because he did that, stood forward and expected that, the norm, and even though he wasn't a part of that team that had played all those previous games that had led to that final, or he wasn't part of that crew that had navigated all those previous journeys, except for that one particular final journey, he didn't gain the respect, regardless of the result, regardless of the completion of that voyage of the navigation of those stormy waters. And I think it was through his inflexibility, not his arrogance, that nobody cheered him nor respected him, even though the end result was successful. So sometimes in life, depending on what the mission is, some energy has to be brought in from somewhere else, and it might not be the norm. It might just be a representation of energy that's going to get the results, and that can be said for the non-physical as well as the physical. That can be said of energy. Sometimes an influential energy has to be brought in to make sure the job gets done. And I believe that that's what's happening at this moment in time, in this great exchange of energies from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. Makes you think, doesn't it? And if we're making you think, we're expanding that awareness. Anyway, and some others might just say, yeah, it was just a dream. Well, maybe it was. Maybe it was. Maybe I think too much, too deep. Anyway, that's it for now. Just wanted to share that with you. Yeah. I'd like to know your thoughts, actually. Take care.